In this video, we're going to talk about the clinical educator observations and the reflection on teaching that you will be doing after your observation. And so I'm going to be talking through this document, but I'll also jump to some of the things that are linked here as well to guide you through the expectations and the things to think about as you're getting ready for your observation. You've already seen the video on the lesson plan and had a chance to look at the template. So I'll move through that a bit more quickly. So you can see here at the very top that your clinical educator will be completing 2 formal observations of you teaching multilingual learners during your internship. We recommend that one observation take place near the beginning of the internship and one near the end, so you can have an opportunity to think about growth over time. And if possible, it's always great to try to connect some of those observations to planning you've done in other courses. So if you created lesson plans or unit plans for other courses, such as in EDC 516, you could use some of those resources as the lessons that you're working on for this assignment. And it's okay if you're creating something new or you're adapting curricula that you haven't used for another course, but I wanted to make sure to make that clear that that was an option. So you will begin, as we've talked about in the previous video, with doing the planning itself. We have the template linked here and also on Brightspace, where you will be kind of carefully thinking about what you'll be doing throughout the lesson to engage with and support your multilingual learners. Ideally, you would share and discuss this with your CE before the lesson, so you have a chance to get feedback and also to just have a thinking partner as you're moving into the lesson delivery. And this again mentions some of those specific things we're looking for. Your clinical educator will be using an observation checklist that we've created that's rooted in some of the core tenets of the Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol that you learned about in EDC 515 and other elements of effective practice for supporting MLLs. So I highly recommend that you take a look at this checklist before your observation. I'm going to toggle over to that now. Because this is the form that your CE will be using as they observe you. And as you can see, it lists a range of different instructional practices, and your CE will have a chance to rate them as observed, partially observed, not observed, or not applicable. Most of these things should be applicable, so you'll likely have a numeric score. And then here they can provide some evidence or comments about each item. And so you'll see that we've divided this into different sections. We have setting the stage for learning, language development, comprehensible input, interaction and output, asset-based approach, and formative assessment. And so as you're planning your instruction and working on your lesson plan, thinking about these different components would be helpful to make sure that you are addressing each of these in your lesson. And I especially encourage you to think about number 11, where students have opportunities to use their home language to support their learning, even if it's as simple as having an intentional turn and talk opportunity where students are grouped or paired with someone who shares their home language so they can have that opportunity to make meaning, or any kind of home language supports that would be useful to support their learning or support their ability to engage with the lesson. But across this template or this observation form, you see lots of different things we've focused on throughout the program, certainly around comprehensible input and interaction and output, important things to think about. All right, so this is what your CEs will be using. We'll go back to the description. And then after your observation, you should ideally, again, meet with your CE and talk through their feedback and have them share that form with you. And then you will be writing a reflection where you reflect upon the lesson experience and the feedback specifically that you received from your CE. You see this highlighted in yellow because it is important that as you are writing that reflection, you provide evidence of student work to explain how the student work impacted your planning, instruction, assessment, and or future work. And your reflections should specifically engage with the feedback that you received as you're thinking about the evidence you might provide. So, for example, if your clinical educator for this section, number 7, having access to grade level materials with appropriate scaffolds or adaptations based on language proficiency levels. If you received a 2 in this section, you might go back to your lesson materials and the student work that you collected, and maybe you would pull an example of a worksheet, take a picture of it or scan it, include it in your reflection and say, my CE noted that this was only partially observed. And when I reflect back and look at examples of student work from my MLLs, I do see that perhaps this worksheet didn't have some of the scaffolds it needed for the student to be able to engage with it. I think that they understood some of the content. I think it was comprehensible, but I don't think that I gave them enough supports in terms of sentence frames or word banks or L1 supports or peer supports to be able to successfully show me what they understood and knew. So I should, in the future, adapt the worksheet in these ways, XYZ, to make it more accessible for my students at different stages of language proficiency. So that's an example of taking feedback and then reflecting on it, responding to it with student evidence. And so for any category in which you receive a 2, a 1, or an NA, we want you to focus on those areas in your reflection and kind of think about those, think about the feedback you got, and think about what you might do differently, all the while connecting to examples of student work. And it's important to also highlight the greatest strength of your lesson. So please begin by talking about, the things that went well, the areas where your CE noted a 3, what you view as what was strongest about your lesson. And in addition to kind of getting into the weeds of those areas where you didn't achieve a 3, thinking about, where you think the greatest area for improvement might be. You also are welcome to indicate any place where you disagree with the feedback you received in a thoughtful way, of course, and providing evidence for that, of course, is useful. So here you can see the grading rubric itself. First, the lesson design. So we are looking to see that you completed the lesson and addressed all the different areas of the EDC 519 template. And then this is where we look for, did you engage with the feedback that your CE provided? And did you give evidence and examples in that response? The quality of the response. So again, you see, did you address areas of strength and areas of improvement? Did you connect it to student work? Did you tactfully address any feedback you didn't agree with, if relevant? And then the clarity of your response, that it's organized, it doesn't have any mechanical errors. So that is what we are looking for your observations, and then your reflection on those observations. To Brightspace, you will be uploading your reflection. You'll be uploading the lesson plan document, the lesson plan itself, and also the completed template that your clinical educator provides you after the lesson. All right, that is it.